speaker like this. This is a Bluetooth speaker. And this factory is making thousands of these speakers. But they're not perfect. Because remember, this factory is selling each of these speakers for $4 each, okay? Only 4. Bluetooth speaker. And on that day when I visited the factory, what I found was, we were checking everything. What I found was that near the end of the assembly line, I said, oh, can I have the QC sheet? That is, the QC sheet is the piece of paper that writes down all of the rejections for the current production run. And in that QC sheet, I'll show you in a minute, in that QC sheet, what happened was there were some rejections associated with rework. So here's the production line. For those who came this morning, what you would have, I explained to you the issue about quality, and I said, wow, this factory here has a lot of challenges with quality. Okay, so first of all, where's my pointer? I haven't got my pointer here. All right. First of all, when you actually look through, you've got things everywhere. You've got electrical items, you've got batteries, they're just laying everywhere. This is a mess. See those circuit boards? They shouldn't even be on top of each other. Okay, so the big idea I introduced to you this morning was this notion of prevention. Okay? Prevention. If you invest in prevention, you can save on appraisal activities, you can save on internal failure, you can save on external failure. This factory has zero prevention. This is your worst nightmare. You don't want to order from this factory. But this factory is making money. It's making money because most of the buyers they sell to do not visit the factory, so they don't see what you see here. Okay? All right? And that's the Bluetooth speaker. Nothing wrong with a piece of plastic. We can always get that right. Factories can get that right. It's the electrical system that goes inside. And so what I'm going to show you now is the QC sheet. Let's have a look. Look at that. That is a mess. You don't do that. Don't do that. This gets me excited. Like, you don't pile up electronics like that. And then you don't throw it onto the conveyor belt, okay? Okay, so this factory basically has zero preventative control, okay? And we can go right to the end, and I'll take you to the QC sheet. Let's have a look. It's look at that. Just throw it onto the next person next to you, okay? And wherever it fits. Let's go to the QC sheet. Let's have a look. Here we go. Okay, this is what we want to watch now. All right, so heavy soldering. Notice this guy does not have an electronic static band around his wrist. Here's the QC sheet. Okay, now I don't understand Chinese, so for those of you who don't understand Chinese, I'm in your boat too, so don't worry. We may need to move that around a little bit. There, just put the camera. Okay, so what we've got here is that each column represents a 2-hour production run, and then they tick off every time there's a reject. So this is like internal failure. Remember this morning I introduced to you 4 different types of quality baskets. Okay, prevention. What was the next one? Prevention. What was the next one? appraisal, internal failure, external failure. This is internal failure. Okay? Internal failure is when you pick up a product and it's not working, and so therefore you don't ship it. It actually goes back into recycle, it goes back into rubbish or landfill for some factories. Now, one of these items of internal failure relates to the electronic circuit that was delivered to this supplier. And so I asked the owner, I said this morning, I asked the owner, well, why don't you have a check, like an appraisal, preventative check, when the goods are delivered? And he said, these units are only $4 US. Why would I want to invest in preventative measures? So that was the attitude, but that's the way it is in a lot of these factories. They just do what they can. And so we're looking at these are all the failures. These are internal failures. I'm glad they caught it here, rather than they go onto Amazon, the clients get it, and then they complain. All right, so I'm excited to try, I want to teach buyers about just understanding the problems that these suppliers are having. This morning I left you with a cost of quality report. And essentially this cost of quality report is you're taking accounting numbers and putting it into 4 boxes. Right. Oops. Just want to use my pointer here. 4 boxes. The first one is prevention costs, appraisal costs, internal failure, external failure. In the video you just saw internal failure. You saw the markings on that board. That's what we call internal failure. All right, this morning I explained to you that prevention costs are things where you invest in proper procedure, you invest in checks right at the beginning. So therefore, I showed you a factory this morning that really didn't have proper machine procedures at the top of every one of the workers in the factory. Appraisal costs is when inspectors come into the factory and then they check everything. And then they find often internal failure is a result of inspection. Okay, all right, so let's go. What I'm going to do this afternoon is we want to go one step further now, because the purpose of this report was to go to a CEO, the CFO or CIO, and then say, look, here's our quality status. We want to invest more in these quality initiatives, and here is the result of this investment if we go ahead, okay? So you're asking for money, you're asking for resources from the top C managers in the organisation. I just want to bring to your attention learning outcome number 2. They develop non-financial measures and methods to improve quality, customer satisfaction, internal. So these are different measures that is in part of chapter 19 associated with customer satisfaction. So what we're going to do on these couple of slides is introduce you to some of the measures that you could use. So if you were talking to your restaurant manager about your report, they might ask you, what can we do? Have they asked you for advice? Anyone asked you for advice yet? Don't be surprised if they do, okay? It doesn't take long. Sometimes it's maybe a trust thing. They won't ask you for advice. But you see them a second time, you bring a report back to them, you never know, they may ask you. Okay, so don't be surprised, just be ready. It doesn't mean you have to know everything. You can start asking more questions then. That's a good idea. But some advice I would give to a lot of owners is to start measuring one new thing. You might ask them, are you measuring customer satisfaction? Oh, no, we don't do that because we see the customers every day. But do you have some measure? Do you know if customer satisfaction is going up, but going down? Are you here every day? Well, not really. I just come in on Thursday, Friday and Saturday. Well, what about Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday and Sunday? Oh, well, I trust everything's all right then. But you don't know. You're not here. Maybe you need to measure something. All right. So market share is a normal item, but for a growing restaurant, these things are very nebulous. They're not very stable, so you can't do much with that. Remember, you want to measure something that can help you make a decision. All right. So why would you do a survey of customer satisfaction? You want to know if you're going in the right direction. It's exactly, if I ask you at the end of each week, how satisfied are you with this lecture? What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? What am I doing good? Why? Because in the following week, I want to do more of what you found was good and do less of what was not useful for you. So that's why we want satisfaction, because then we can make a decision. Anytime we measure something, we measure it for the purpose of making a decision. So if you're talking to the owner and then they say to you, could you suggest some measures, some way of measuring something? Your first response should not to think of the measure. Your first response should be, well, what type of decision do you want to make? So if they ask you a question, you respond with a question. That makes you a good consultant. All right? You don't have to have answers to everything. All right? Because it depends. The answer depends. Okay? So if they say, I want a new measure, can you suggest a measure? And say, well, what's your focus? What do you want? He said, I want to grow customers. So I want to grow clientele coming back. Well, okay, here's a good measure. Every customer that comes in, you ask them 2 questions. Number 1, what is the likelihood you will return? And number 2, what is the likelihood you will recommend our restaurant to someone else? All right, so that relates to that decision of how to grow the business. All right. So when we talk about measures, I don't want you to get hung up with thinking, okay, there's only one measure. No. Normally there may be 1 or 2 decisions, but there's lots of different measures that you can use. But we need to understand what is the decision they want to make. If owners are not going to change anything, then there's no need to measure anything. The reason why the Halloween is there is because when I last taught this content, I was teaching it around September, October and November, and so this is around the November area, so we had Halloween. I'll have to change it. 3 techniques for identifying and analysing quality problems. So now we've moved from customer perspective, now we're going to internal perspective. And what is special here are these are very, very popular tools that you can use. And let's have a look at each one. Okay, here is a control chart. How many of you have seen this before in another course? Anyone? No one? Okay. If you study engineering, operations management, anything to do with the hard physical sciences, you may come across this, especially in production. A control chart is something that maps variation over time. Let me repeat, a control chart is something that maps variation over time. And let me explain to you a key word I can write down for you is Here's a key word for you to take away. Tolerance. Okay? The thing about tolerance is that you need to know what your tolerances are. Okay? If your strategy is low cost, saving money, maybe your tolerances are larger. That is what you allow to be acceptable before you reject an output of a process. But if you were going into a higher quality level, your focus should be on having, well, maybe the same, maybe we have the same distribution, but we have tighter tolerances, okay? So here is much narrower than here, okay? So before you can start to chart something like this, you need to first define, well, what are your tolerances for the variation in the process? And when you have these tolerances, then you can start to get some meaning out of this control chart, because then you're only interested in if a process is out of control. So which one of these is out of control? Which one? The first one, second one, or third? Hands up for the first one. Hands up for the second. Hands up for the third. Okay? The second one is out of control if the tolerance is that top line here and the bottom line here. And so you've got these two parts that are out of control. This one looks like it's on a trend, but it's still within the tolerance. So then that's acceptable. So a control chart, before you even have some kind of control chart, you need to understand, what is the tolerance? What is your highest and lowest? Because here's an interesting thing, and I remember this is very big in automotive industry and working machines. Sometimes when you have tighter tolerances here, sometimes it requires the machine to work harder because they have to machine a little bit more, and so that wears out the machine more. It costs more money. But the customers you are selling to, they may accept a tolerance here. And so therefore, you're making a product to specification. Remember, what was the big key word this morning? Conformance. Remember, conformance quality? You're making something that conforms to a standard that is 10 times higher than what the customers are looking for. Why would you waste money doing that? So this is where earlier in chapter 19 they talk about conformance quality and design quality. Remember that? We touched on that this morning. And so conformance quality is totally related to looking at this control chart here. I don't know who did this below, but it looks very interesting. ABC, customer, unit base. Oh, we'll be doing more of this next week. I look forward to that. Okay, now, just while we're there, I'll just remember, these are key words I want you to think about. Conformance, quality, and design quality, okay? So which one of these is the focus of the customer? It's this one here, okay? This is the focus of the engineer, okay? Conformance quality and design quality. You do need to know those two terms. It's very important. The control chart is really about what do you reject in order to conform to particular standards that you set for a product. Okay. All right. Next is the Pareto Diagram. Many of you have heard of this. Sometimes some people refer to the Pareto Diagram as the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule. Wow, what do we mean by 80? Sorry, we keep on moving the camera around. What is the 80-20 rule? It means that we never have enough time or resources to fix everything. So let's just focus on the 20% of causes that's causing 80% of our problems. Right? That's a quick bang for the buck, right? And so here we want to map out all the problems for photons copier problem. Well, some photocopiers, they're fuzzy and unclear. Copies are too light or too dark. Paper gets jammed. Copies are not square on a page. Toner, printer, right? So which one are you going to try and fix first? Which defect? Are you going to start here or are you going to start here? Hands up if you're going to start here. Everyone put their hand up, please. Let me ask the question again. Hands up if you're going to start here. I just want to know how many of you are alive, you know? Do you know how to put the hand up? Okay, that's great. Love to see your hands. All right? You wouldn't start down here. Why? Because the idea of Pareto Principle is that you're going to get more bang for your buck if you focus on the defects that are most frequent, okay? Rather than down here. This is just a small issue. You should focus on this issue first. The final part, this returns me to my work I've done with Apple. So, Okay, can I tell you a story? How many of you got an iPhone? Who's got an iPhone here? Can I have a look at your iPhone? iPhone? Can we bring iPhone? Can we bring the iPhone down? Thank you. Oh, you don't have to. All right, don't worry. I'm not going to look at it. All right. So here, this is an iPhone. Oh, don't worry. I drop phones sometimes, but I won't. You're okay. All right. So this is an iPhone, and you know that. Anyway, so my friend who used to work for Apple was telling me a story about one day they were manufacturing an iPhone. So at the end of the process, the iPhones all put together and finished and ready to pack, and they saw there was this fog in the corner just starting to appear. It was as if there was a chemical reaction under the screen. And it was really interesting. So they put a team of engineers together to try and solve this problem. Like this, you cannot. Like this is a major problem. It took them 2 weeks. It took them 2 weeks to solve the problem. And I said, well, you know, what tool did you use? He said, oh, we used one of these. We just mapped out all the different factors that could be causing this problem. And then we just simple, nothing automated, no AI at all. We just had to investigate every possible cause. And he said, oh, we just use a cause-effect diagram just like this. So even Apple does this to explore and solve problems. So do you know what the reason was? True story, Apple iPhone. Your iPhone. Don't worry, they're still okay. The iPhone's okay. All right? Anyway, so you know Corning, they deliver the glass, right? Corning deliver the Gorilla Glass for Apple. Apple actually buys it off them and then sells it to Foxconn for a 10% profit. But let's not talk about that other stuff they do. All right. And anyway, back to Tom when they're making the iPhone. This is the iPhone 4 when it happened on. So with iPhone 4, there are 3 elements of the display. There's the glass, there's the TFT and the LCM module. Now with the iPhone 10, there's only 2 elements. Okay, you've got the glass, but the TFT and LCM module are together. Okay, so there's only 2 components. But back then they had 3, so the glass comes in, the LCM module comes in, the TFT display comes in. The TFT is the item that finds your finger when you touch it. Okay, it's the electronics behind the screen. Okay, so they all have to come together. But when they're delivered from different suppliers, of course the suppliers, they put a protective film over it. When you deliver something, why you just got to protect it from dust and other things, okay? Anyway, so what happened was that Corning on the glass, and both sides of the glass, they've just put a little bit of adhesive at the top to hold the protector in place. Okay, otherwise it just fall off, right? And what happened was that adhesive counteracted with other chemicals from the other products, from the TFT module and the LCM module, and then it caused this chemical reaction. It took them 2 weeks to find that problem. 2 weeks. Wow, that's real. And they did. And I said, what do you use? Cause-effect diagram. Say, yay, yay, yay. Because we teach our students this. So it's good. I'm so happy to teach you this. But the big companies use it. It's real. It's not just a textbook thing for you to remember and then you can forget when you graduate. This is really, really important. Okay? You get out a cause-effect diagram and you just check off you write down all the possible causes and then you check them off one by one, until you solve the problem. Okay. Maybe here's another thing you can do, all right? You can have your grade at the end of the semester here, A, B, C, D, and then what is the cause of your grade? Okay, method and design. Maybe you have the teacher here, maybe you have the content here, maybe you have your own effort here, and then you can figure out, what's causing you to have a high grade and a low grade. Blame the teacher, understand. Okay, so internal business perspective, non-financial measures. So here is some non-financial measures in the internal business perspective. Remember, there are 4 perspectives in the balanced scorecard. So for example, percentage of defective products, average repair time. Remember defective products? You saw that in the factory visit video, right? You saw that. Okay. Percentage of rework products. Obviously, that's going to be related to these two. Number of different types of defects found. You saw that in that video. Okay. Was it because the electrical? Is it the battery? Is it the volume? Okay. Those reading Chinese, you can see that that's what those 3 things mean. Number of design and process changes. All right. So these are some measures, and I've actually showed you that with the video. And then we have non-financial measures. Non-financial measures are things that you could actually suggest to the restaurant that you are interviewing, if it is. So for example, they may ask you, how do we get our waiters to do better? Do we fire them and then get another one? That doesn't solve things in the long run. Maybe you need to do some training. Maybe you need to find out, are your waiters satisfied being there? Why are they here? Why are they working in the restaurant? Just find out their why. Okay, just like I asked the first years last week, why are you here? I just want to know your motivation. You want to know your employees' motivation, so maybe you can measure these items. This is very much more accessible to small businesses because they all have employees that they care about. Okay. So what we're going to do now, we're going to learning objective 3. See the big 3 here? Okay. Learning outcome 3. The costs of quality measures to make decisions, identify relevant incremental costs and benefits, and opportunity costs to evaluate trade-offs. So let's have a look at that. So what I've got here, right? Remember, what are we trying to do? Okay, all of you are in, the job of all of you is you're on the factory floor, you're supervising operations in the factory. Okay, so your job is to think, okay, I need to, we need to manage today, but also we need to invest for tomorrow and the future. We need to be sustainable. So based on your observation and your knowledge and of the processes, you've come up with 2 different initiatives that you think that Photon needs to do to fix those problems. Remember the Pareto problem? The biggest problem in the Pareto chart? So the next step is to find solutions. Well, here are 2 possible solutions here. One is further inspecting incoming frames. So that's inspection costs. That's appraisal costs, right? Am I right? What's the other one? Redesigning frames. So what type of quality cost is that? Oh, sorry, I forgot. I'm going to ask you a question. That means I'm looking for an answer. All right, so get ready for the question. And the question is, all right, so we have redesigning frames. So what type of quality cost is that? Did I hear it? My hearing's not very good. Did they say something? Let me repeat. Redesigning frames. What type of quality cost is that? Prevention, exactly. Okay? Prevention. All right? Because you redesign altogether. You're actually changing the whole process that could be associated with that. All right? So this is prevention, but this one is appraisal. Okay? Which comes first? Prevention first. Okay? Then appraisal. Then internal failure, then external failure. You don't want to go there, all right? You don't even want to go there, all right? All right, so here we have, and let me turn on to our, can you all see that out the back? It's a bit small, but you have your PowerPoint slides. Right, so here we have appraisal, huh? Right, and this one is prevention. Okay, so there's our two. So that's appraisal. That's the whole initiative. That's one initiative, and that's the second initiative. Two initiatives. So now you can go to the CFO, the CIO, okay, the CEO, and say, look, we've got these two initiatives, and I recommend that we invest in which one? Well, the net cost savings I'll fast forward, the next cost savings is 3.8 million for this one. The next cost savings is 3 million for this one. Then you bring that to the CFO or the CIO and say, oh, I want to go with the redesigning frames. Why? Oh, because redesigning frames is going to save us this much money going forward for the next 3 years. How do you know that? Well, here are my assumptions based on the quality report. And by the way, here's the quality report that we did this morning. And it showed you that if we invest more in prevention, then that can have positive consequences for lower appraisal, lower internal failure, and lower external failure. Ah, really? You've done your homework. Ah, you sound like you're a supervisor that knows their accounting. Well, I graduated from Monash, of course. Oh, who was your teacher? Oh, this O'Connor guy. He kept on talking. All right, so enough of that. And then you get your money, and then everyone's happy ever after. You see, when you go and ask for money from senior managers, you need to justify it with your report. So that's why we're teaching you, and it's in the exam, we're teaching you how to put a report together. Okay? You don't just do a report, oh, we've got to fill in these 12 weeks for management accounting, and you never use it ever again. All right? All right? First and foremost, the idea is it's justifying. It's justifying decisions that you make. Okay? People will give you money if you can justify the decision. All right, so how come this works out to 3.8 million and 3.09? Well, you're going to have assumptions on all these savings, and you're going to have costs involved. See, you're asking the CFO to give you additional costs here of 400,000, and here you're asking the CFO to give you an additional nearly 500,000. Wow, you want this money, all right? And the benefit is you're going to get savings in rework, savings in customer support, transportation, warranty, total contribution. And so there are the benefits there. Cost benefit. Here is decision alternative A. Here are the costs. Here are the benefits. Here's decision alternative B. Here are the costs. Here are the benefits. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay, so let me summarise. The estimated incremental costs are shown here. Okay. The cost savings from less rework, customer support and repairs are here. And increased contribution margin from higher sales as a result of building a reputation for quality and performance. Which one of these is your opportunity costs? Which one is the, so remember this morning I introduced this notion of opportunity costs, right? So which one is related to that? And let me just quietly repeat remember, opportunity costs was the idea this morning that opportunity costs can be lost revenue because you let that teddy bear with the needle get into the hands of a customer. The customer finds it, then they complain, they make a video, they put it on YouTube, it goes viral, and people stop buying teddy bears from you. Okay, true. Needles do get stuck into teddy bears. If you were in my lecture this morning, you know the story. Okay, the next opportunity cost is the price. Suddenly, your teddy bear product can no longer be sold in Robinson's. You have to go and sell it in Daiso. All right, and you're not going to be able to sell the teddy bear for the same price in Daiso. Okay, and then what was the final one? The final one, revenue, price, was to do with the production capacity is not being used, not used. Why? Because you're not selling as much. You've invested all this money and you can't, people won't buy what your capacity is to make product. Okay, so opportunity cost was the tricky thing that we learnt this morning. So just remind you of that. And so down here, you can speculate the contribution margin from extra additional sales. This, of all of these, let me repeat, of all of these items here, which one is most speculative in terms of assumption? Which one do you think? We can have option A, B, C, D, E, F. Hands up for F. Do you know my question? My question is, you're talking about the future. You know, if you give me money, this is the savings, right? It's about the future. So therefore, that's an assumption. You're making assumptions. You can only make assumptions about the future. Nothing's guaranteed about the costs in the future. So there's all assumptions associated with these savings, right? Which of these assumptions do you think is most speculative? Do you understand? Most speculative. Which one? The one at the top or the one at the bottom? Hands up for the top. Hands up for the bottom. Yeah, the one near the bottom. Okay, anything to do with opportunity costs, trying to predict that in the future is definitely most speculative. Okay, but savings in rework or customer support, it's likely you can predict that easier because you hire someone to do customer support. Okay, and then as a result of these new changes, maybe you only need 5 people instead of 7 people on customer support. All right. But it's harder to predict whether sales is going to go up by 10% or 20%. Okay, so that's why this is very speculative here, less speculative. It's all speculative. Anything about future is speculative, but opportunity costs is the most speculative of them all. Okay, so now the advantages of financial measures of quality. So what is our learning objective here? Use financial and non-financial measures to evaluate quality. Non-financial measures are leading indicators of future costs of quality. Wow. Okay. Okay. I want you to absorb basically how many different types of reports have I taught today? How many? 1, 2, 3? This morning we did one type of report, am I right? And just now I showed you a second report. That is a report showing 2 decision alternatives. Am I right? Yes or no? Okay, so 2 types of reports. Okay, so let's read this clearly. Cost of quality, so a report that has cost of quality in it, focuses managers' attention on the cost of poor quality. Because the manager can see that, if we are not doing preventative and appraisal in year 1, in year 2 or 3, wow, look at the internal and external failure costs. This is too bad. We can't afford this. We will not be sustainable. Another word for quality is sustainability. Have you heard that word before? And you probably thought, I'd love to study sustainability one day. Put your hand up if you'd like to study sustainability one day. Anyone? You're not interested in sustainability? Oh, come on. There must be someone. Anyone? One person. Great. 2, 3. That's good. I'm here to tell you that chapter 19, quality, everything I'm teaching you today is sustainability. This is what sustainability is about. Okay? Because sustainability is about putting proper designs in today. It's putting in proper preventative measures today so you don't waste resources in the future. That's sustainability. All right? It's not about saving the dolphins in the Yellow Sea. Okay? It's about putting proper design, preventative measures in place so you save resources tomorrow. Okay? So this chapter 19, should be called cost of quality or the cost of sustainability. Wow. You already know about sustainability. See, you get 2 for 1 in this lecture. Yakai lang mei. Sorry, apologies for the Cantonese. All right, so cost of quality focuses managers on the cost of quality. Cost of quality measures assist problem solving by comparing costs. And costs of quality provides a single summary measure of quality performance for evaluating trade-offs. And that's what I showed you, the report. We have option 1 and we have option 2. And then here are the trade-offs. And one saved more than $800,000 versus the other. Okay? So that's basically summarising the 2 reports that I have taken you through today. All right? Now the advantages of non-financial measures of quality. Non-financial. Remember, the reports I have taught you to look at are financial measures of quality. Non-financial are easy to quantify. Non-financial direct attention. Non-financial provide short-run feedback. So what do we mean by non-financial? Non-financial could be the clipboard in that factory where it shows how many rejects there were on internal failure. Okay. We had 5 in the last 2 hours. This is greater than what we had yesterday. It's quantitative, but it's non-financial. You haven't put a dollar figure on it. Okay. So in all the factories, and I've been to hundreds of factories that I've been to, they always use these clipboards and just count. They just count. Simple. Okay. They use non-financial measures on the factory floor because they are much easier to relate to. If 4 items are rejected, you know that there were 4 items that failed. You don't have to do any calculation. Okay? So non-financial direct attention. They direct attention to the physical areas because you might have, in that example of the factory, the non-financial measures Some of the failures occurred because of the volume, some of them because of the battery, some of them because of the assembly. Some of the failures occurred because of the poor electronics. Non-financials are useful indicators of future long-run performance. Okay, so this is the theme that we are about. Why do we use financial reports when I just said non-financials are good? Because you cannot go to the CFO, the CIO, the CEO with a clipboard. Oh, here's all our rechecks. Can you give us more money for a better machine? Like, you've got to talk in their language. Their language is, how much is it going to cost? And what are we going to get in return? That's their language. That's it. All right? Their language is dollars. Their language is financial. So that's why your job is to convert non-financial into financial with these two reports. Okay? Convert non-financial into financial, then you can get their attention, then they can invest in training for you. Wow. And by the way, none of you have thought to ask me, what is this PCF? What does that mean? What does that mean? And I've already shown you, it refers to the 3 items of quality control. What are they? P, Pareto Diagram. Remember Apple? How many weeks did they spend to solve that cloud in the iPhone? How many weeks did I say? You listening, I like that. I love it when students listen. Okay, now the C, what does the C stand for? C, control charge. Remember the tolerances? High tolerance, low tolerance. Okay, and what about the F? What does that stand for? Fishbone diagram. Hold you. Okay, fishbone diagram. Okay, big fish. Because when you scale a fish, you take all the meat off and you're left with a bone. It looks like that cause effect diagram. So they call it a fishbone diagram. All right. So PCF is a way of giving feedback, but really the real feedback you need is you need to convert the financial measures into financial, then you can get their attention.